Welcome. I invite you to subscribe, like, and share this story. We really appreciate your support. Enjoy the journey. The story I shared on another platform describes in detail the story of my wife's infidelity to her colleague. However, here I am looking for better advice. I apologize for the haste, but to ensure clarity and comprehensive understanding, I will provide excerpts from my initial communications to provide a complete and unbiased account. Let's continue. Until the events unfolded, my wife never cheated on me, neither with her colleague nor with anyone else. I, 33, have been married to my 34-year-old wife for more than 10 years, and we have been together for almost 13 years. She gave birth to 2 small children for me. After almost 6 years of focusing on raising children and running a household, my wife decided to return to work. Although I fully supported her decision, she assured me that she likes being at home with the children, but would like a change. As a result, she found a job in her field of banking. The only problem I encountered was her special relationship with a 27-year-old male colleague with whom, as she later admitted, she was to me. It all started with random messages and turned into correspondence. At least a dozen messages were written every day, not counting communication in working mode, which she lied about at the beginning, that is, denied. When I expressed my concerns, I was brushed off with such familiar phrases as "we're just friends" and "you're trying to control me." During one of my visits to her workplace, I saw them interacting in an alarming manner. They exchanged brief, awkward glances and hurriedly averted their eyes, as if feeling embarrassed. At the same time, there was an awkward silence, partly caused by me. I hope you understand the consequences. After this incident, I became more and more convinced that something was wrong. This situation persisted for several months, during which we often quarreled. I have repeatedly expressed my belief that their inexplicable relationship is putting a huge strain on our marriage, but she has consistently denied any wrongdoing, claiming that nothing is happening. I admit, one day, without her knowledge, I looked through her phone and found that they write to each other every day, though about neutral things, nothing sexual, but it was obvious that some messages were deleted and some messages were very personal. Unable to take it anymore, I insisted that we talk. This is how I described the situation in my original account. Tonight, when we were putting our children to bed, I went up to my wife and told her how deeply this situation affected me, although I did not show it outwardly. She seemed visibly annoyed by my insistence, and anger flared up between us again. I immediately asked to see her phone number, repeating why this whole situation called into question the state of the relationship. She claimed it was an invasion of her privacy, but eventually relented. To my surprise, all the messages between them were deleted. Not one is left. Even the innocent work-related messages I witnessed disappeared. I was in a state of disbelief. I questioned her motives and the purpose behind such a stupid act. Her justification was based on my suspicions, which forced her to erase all correspondence and stop communicating with him except for work-related issues. I knew she was being dishonest. I wasn't even angry at that moment. I was just deeply disappointed and hurt by her actions. We walked in circles for more than an hour. It occurred to me that instead of accusing her without evidence, it would be wiser to proceed with the investigation cautiously. I realized my mistake and chastised myself, thinking, what a fool I was. I should have kept my suspicions to myself. She'll be more careful now. All this time, her phone was lying right in front of us on the table. And guess who decided to text my wife at 10:13 p.m.? His message was brief but undeniably intimate. I can't stop thinking about you. I hope you're all right. I read the message and looked at my wife. I had to capture the expression on her face at that moment. She knew it was from him. Without saying a word, I got up, headed upstairs, grabbed my bag, and started packing. Almost immediately, she rushed after me, crying and insisting that I had misunderstood, that everything was not as I thought. I've never seen such desperation in her before. It was truly heartbreaking. Without entering into a conversation with her, I picked up my bag and headed for the door. She physically blocked it by begging me and asking where I was going. I begged her to refrain from contacting me until she could clear her mind and think rationally. I squeezed past her and went outside. I got to the bus stop and boarded the first bus that arrived, and now I find myself sitting on a bench in an unfamiliar part of the city, enduring a frost of -6 degrees, waiting for my good friend who kindly agreed to pick me up in his car and provide me with a place to sleep. After our confrontation, I still had to return home, because due to the restrictions on the coronavirus, I had nowhere to go. My wife tried to talk to me many times, but I wasn't ready to talk. It took me a few days, but in the end, I wanted to find out the truth. Confessions of a Wife. For those who don't want to go into detail, here's a summary. My wife and her coworker were having an affair. My wife confessed that we kissed twice. The first kiss happened a few days before I came to her workplace, so I guess it must have seemed strange at the time. She said it was in the elevator when I was coming back from lunch. He jumped her and she gave in to the urge, her words. She said she knew right away it was wrong and told him it was a mistake and that she would never do it again. He replied to her, "Yes, you're right." He turned out to be right. The second time, they kissed for 10 minutes in his car on the way home from work. That was at the end of August. There was no physical contact after that, and we apparently never even saw each other. I asked her how she could prove that this was true and that nothing else had happened. She replied that she had never thought about it, but after a while she said she would find a way. She's very hung up on the fact that they never had sex. She says that he didn't directly try to induce her to have sex, but that he wanted to, and she didn't. I'm not sure I believe her right now. I probably won't believe her. I don't believe that two adults in an adulterous relationship don't have sex. When I asked her why she didn't want to have sex with him, she said she knew she couldn't go back afterward. I have no idea what that means. If you have any insights, please let me know. Maybe she sees right through me and knows more about me than I do myself. I started telling her that if nothing happened, then why do we talk so much every day? She replied that we have been texting a lot since the second week after we met at work. Mostly we chatted about other things, but she admitted that sometimes some of the messages crossed the line. Gradually, we moved from friendly topics to more intimate ones. She admitted to deleting messages and entire conversations that were too explicit by her standards. I didn't take that fact well, and we had to take another break. Apparently, most, but not all, of the inappropriate conversations were instigated by her coworker. I told her that it took two to do this dance and that she was just as much, if not more, at fault than he was. For some reason, she disagreed, saying she understood. According to my wife, they stopped texting each other several times but always returned to texting. They had hardly exchanged letters in the last 2 weeks. I asked her about the messages she had received that evening. She said he sent her similar messages every time he had a day off trying to get her back in touch, but she was too weak and stupid to take the bait every time, her words. He would text her late in the night. Poor girl, damn her if she knows who her soulmate is. Some people are just vile, but I decided not to think about it. Finally, the wife said she was ready to cut off contact with him completely and wanted to talk about the decision in my presence. I asked my wife how she was going to lose contact with the person she works with. What if he needed to talk to her about work? She replied that work was no longer her concern, so we did. Immediately after sending the message, she blocked his number. I didn't ask her why he was cheating on her and told her we would discuss it another time. I think we will talk about it a lot more in the future. I think I know most of the reasons for cheating, but I want my wife to tell me her side of the story. My wife then told me everything and asked me what I was going to do next. I had many opportunities to confess to my wife what was going on, but she didn't. She got upset. She started hyperventilating. It made her all shaky, and the shaking was transmitted to the dinner table. I don't know what to do. Today, I felt in control of myself again. I feel good. She wanted to hug me before she left for work, and I kind of let her. The author of the YouTube channel, BUPUN, 𝐖𝐢𝐿𝐴 I'm sorry, but for what it's worth, you belong to a club that no one wants to join. I sympathize with you and your family from the bottom of my heart. We all have red lines we can't cross. Only you can decide what you can tolerate and what you cannot. I divorced my wife when she crossed that line. I understand how people can get carried away with making love and kissing other men and women, but my personal rule is the IPENISA rule. If my wife takes another man's cock in her hand, in her mouth, in her vagina or ass, or sees another man's cock in real life, she immediately becomes my ex-girlfriend. That means more to me than if my wife had a virtual affair. It's a very simple rule that cuts off unnecessary affairs. In your case, at least you didn't cross that line. I can tolerate a kiss on the lips, but not another man's penis. That is my boundary, and you have to decide what you can tolerate. After seeing my ex-girlfriend go through a divorce and living with the fact that she ruined our marriage without getting anything out of it, I had to forgive her. She almost ended her life and I had to take care of her and the kids afterward. I forgave her as a person, but not as a wife. The question is, will I forgive her in the end? If so, will I be able to forgive her as a person or even as a wife? Judging by your story, your wife seems to sincerely repent what she did, but most unfaithful wives are not. If your wife is willing to take a lie detector test to confirm the truth, you can try to reconcile. However, if you think that you will not be able to recover from the whole truth, you should ask for a divorce. Of the many stories I've read on this channel, your wife is one of the few I've empathized with. The end. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.